Hey everyone, this is Paul Gale from paulgalenetwork.com, and thank you for joining me today for video game sales. It is May 26th, 2022, and in today's video we are going to check out the Japanese hardware and software charts coming to us from Famitsu.com. This is going to give us a look at that May 16th through May 22nd time frame, and we're going to begin with hardware. The number one best-selling console of the week was the Nintendo Switch, which sold 64,839 units. In second was the PlayStation 5, which moved 14,277 units. In third was the Xbox Series brand of consoles, doing 7,131 units. In fourth was the Nintendo 3DS, which sold 256 units. And in fifth place was the PlayStation 4, moving 20 units. Overall, we have more systems that went up this week than down, but overall nothing too extraordinary, but still cool to look at. Let's dive in a little bit more. The Nintendo Switch was down by 1,000 from last week, down by 35,000 from last year. It is down for the year to date, weeks aligned. If you look at last year, it did 2.6 million at this point. This year it's at 1.9 million. I still think that 5 is possible for this year, but not a guaranteed. I think 4 is the guarantee. I think 4.5 is safe. Of course, to do 4.5, it needs another 2.6 to go, but we are less than halfway into the year. The holidays always do better. Second half is a bigger than first half kind of scenario that we've come to expect. We've got Pokemon, pair of titles coming out this fall, Bayonetta 3, Mario Strikers in the summer, Fire Emblem, probably a couple of surprises along the way, some more Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC. I think Nintendo Switch is going to do something around 4.5 million in Japan. It will beat 2017's total, 18's, 19's, but it will probably be lower than 20 and 21's, but not too much lower than 2021. Software, on the other hand, is going to be through the roof. It'll probably be Nintendo's best year in history in terms of software sold. Time will tell, but it's pretty exciting. PlayStation 5 went up massively. They really put out a lot of stock for Golden Week, for that pair of weeks really in Japan. And that's why last week, we saw that big kind of historic moment where the Xbox brand outsold the PlayStation brand for the first time, not console launch-wise, in 13 years, since 2009 when Xbox 360 around a dozen times or so in their life of Xbox 360 versus PlayStation 3 beat PlayStation 3 in Japan. That's really not a lot to say because that's 12 weeks worth total out of all the years that they were competing. But the last time it did so anyways was 2009. So for the first time in 13 years, not in a launch week for the Xbox to beat PlayStation was impressive. Xbox managed to pump out 6,000 last week. Sony was kind of low on stock. They did 2,600. Xbox One. Yeah, the Xbox One console, actually in its launch week outsold PS4. So that was only several years ago. But like I said, it's greater value when you look at it from a non-launch week perspective. And that's pretty cool stuff. The Xbox Series actually also went up, even with a nice inventory of 6,000 last week, which also came after a respectable amount of software or hardware, I should say, for its 2 weeks during the Golden Week frame. Did another 7,000, so pretty cool. Not as big of a jump as PlayStation 5, which went up sixfold, but still good on the Xbox's side. The 3DS went up a bit. The PS4 went down by 2, but a pretty cool look at the top 5, even though it's nothing, staggering necessarily. On the breakdown a little bit further, we've got the PlayStation 5 disc version being the one that sold far more than the digital, but that's also due to, what was shipped. On the Xbox side, it was the Series S, far more impactful in sales than the Series X, but once again, probably due to how many were shipped. And on the Nintendo side of things, it was the OLED that led the way with 41,000, the base Switch coming in at second with 16,600, and the Lite with 6,932. Pretty cool to see. Going back to that, could Nintendo Switch do 5 million this year? And the fact that I said, yes, I think it can. Can it beat 2021? Without a price drop, maybe. With a price drop, I think that's definitely more likely. It's really going to be interesting. I don't think, I've seen some people say absolutely guaranteed, and some people not a chance in the world. I don't think either are necessarily true. If anything, I think it's going to be closer to beating 2021 than far missing it, My overall thought is that it will come a little shy, but I'm rooting for it. Like, I would love for it to actually be higher than 2021, because what you see is typically a launch year. So we got 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Can we see a 22 instead of this natural progression of this triangle up and a triangle down? Maybe. It's also interesting to think, what if the pandemic didn't happen in 2020? And for that matter, it never happened at all. Could we have seen something like this? 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, or 22? You cannot say, oh, well, it's only because of Animal Crossing. No, that was going to come out regardless. Nintendo already had that planned. But you could say that, well, probably more Nintendo Switch consoles did sell thanks to lockdown and stuff. How much more sold than if the pandemic didn't happen, we don't know. But safe to say, the pandemic did help because people were in lockdown. I mean, Nintendo Switch consoles were selling off shelves and they were being scalped for high prices. Here's a console that came out 3 years prior in March of 2017, and you couldn't find a new one in stores. And ones that you were finding online were actually above MSRP for used ones even. It was wild. So safe to say, 2021 would have had more units sold because more would have been left over from 2020. So I think 2021 would have been the Nintendo Switch's normal peak year. So it's not like, oh, it just reached the top and now it's on this sharp decline. Not at all. It's just that more people happen to buy it in 2020, because of the situations in the world. So it's hard to find really what is the exact peak year. And then you could argue, well, if there was this natural incline from 19 to 20 without going up too much to 21, could 22 have been the peak year? Again, without as many people having purchased it in 20. Some carry over into 21. Some carry over into 22. Could this have been a peak? And I'm just talking now a little bit more of the worldwide perspective than just Japan. But, when you're talking sales for one, some of that language definitely translates over into the other, even though some markets operate very differently. Like PlayStation, for instance, not doing all that great in Japan, partially due to how much stock Sony is shipping to the country, but overall in the world, it's actually just selling out everywhere left and right and in large quantities by the hundreds of thousands per month. A very different look, right? Anyways, that was a little bit of an extra deep dive. If we go into the software side of things, the number one best-selling game of the week was Nintendo Switch Sports, which did 35,088 units. In second place was a new release, Taiko Rishiden V DX, and it did 21,710 units on the Nintendo Switch. Kirby and the Forgotten Land came in at third, doing 12,853 copies. Fourth goes to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It moved 10,274 copies. In fifth place was the Nintendo Switch version of eBaseball Powerful Pro Baseball 2022, doing 7,210 copies. In sixth was the Nintendo Switch version of Minecraft, moving 6,337 copies. In seventh, Ring Fit Adventure with 5,245 copies. In eighth, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate with 4,869 copies. In ninth place, a new release as well on Nintendo Switch, Snow Brothers Special, which did 4,608 copies. And in 10th, Mario Party Superstars, moving 3,645 copies. That's a full top 10 of Nintendo Switch games in the overall top 10. We'll find out later on if the top 30 is made up of any other platform other than Nintendo Switch, or will it be a clean sweep? I could see a PlayStation 4 title here or there coming in, towards the bottom. Also, it's not that high of a software selling week in Japan. The best game 35,000, the 10th best selling game 3,600. How do you enter the top 30? 1,000? 900 something? When we look at the top 30, we might get some pretty low move-in software that entered the top 30. But hey, props to every company for releasing games and finding ways to succeed however they can. Not every game has to be a multi-million seller to succeed. There are budgets to consider and marketing and how much went into a title and how much did you get out of it, and was it a passion project? And sometimes that's worth it as long as you're not in the hole. If you're making a little bit and having fun doing it, helps build up a brand, reputation, people enjoying their work. So there's more to it than just juggernaut sales. That is the exciting stuff though, like obviously, but props to everyone who makes it on the top 10 and 30 in these weekly charts. Alrighty, that's going to do it today for video game news. Thank you to Chris1964 from the InstallBaseForum.com forums for putting this particular hardware and software chart together. Good job. Thank you everyone for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Take it easy. Bye.